Get over here!
Uh, it is like whether it took me for luckily I pressed a early. I haven't technically eaten any yet. Snack here, trail mix, can of lemon, sesame, so I can get right in new movie review done yesterday. But all that stuff gathering, watching everything. Which I forgot how long these movies, Blade Runner were. So yeah, I'm going over Blade Runner. First one, two, darn near 3 hours. Uh, they're right after that. But and these are friends. Now, the level of stuff that happened behind the scenes, especially the first one, I had to jot them down. Uh, so once I go over the story of the first one, I'm gonna go to the list of little facts behind the first Blade Runner movie. Same stuff here. Yeah, I didn't jot down every little details. I thought the most put down a laundry list of the most interesting. But anyway, so Blade Runner, uh, directed by Ridley Scott, based off the novel by Philip K. Dick, stars Harrison Ford as Rick Deckard, first in a line of Harrison Ford characters that he just one last ride and be done with. Deckard then was Han Solo, then more recently, Indiana Jones. Got Rutger Hauer as Roy Batty, Sean Young, Rachel, Rachel, Edward James, Edward James Olmos, Gaff, M. Walsh, Bryant, Daryl Hannah as Chris, William Sanderson, Bastion, uh, Brian James as Uncle, Joe Turkel as Finn Tyrell, Joanna Cassidy, Laura Solom, Hong, Hannibal Chew. So get this. It's set in 2019. The future. Crazy how certain back in the 50s, like certain time frames of the future. When we hit that marker, like yeah, you can argue it's the future, but not to the extent where like, we actually got flying cars everywhere. Still waiting on like, the moving sidewalks like Jetson. Anyway, uh, so in this world there are robots called replicants, almost like humanoid robots that are like a labor for. When you make a certain because let's say here and now, Blade Runner really set the freaking tone for all future sci-fi films moving forward, especially cyberpunk or kind of thing, cyberpunk in general. This movie really set like the groundwork for all the sci-fi stuff that we all enjoyed. Blade Runner really, set the mood. Aside from maybe Star Wars, you know, uh, Blade Runner really set the tone everything that we know. Terminator, for example, you get these like replicants, and pretty much like thinking robots, all like the hard jobs and stuff like that. Before thinking about stuff now where it's got like these AI robots and stuff that's AI generated algorithm robots, all that stuff, chicken all that stuff. We're living in the whole Blade Runner thing right now. All but we're getting freaking close to literally having like sex robots, practically, and it's like it just is just wild to me how darn near spot on about certain things you see in Blade Runner, how certain things are playing out right. Um, so replicants supposed to be off world, on this different colony, certain before it's illegal for any replicant on Earth. Not why. If you go to like the Blade Runner wiki, but uh, there are these escaped replicants that are need to be hired, terminated. That's where you get these specialized police force known as Blade Runner. There's kind of specialized detectives, and we begin with this guy named Don, who I guess got busted because after Roy and the others are trying to break into the facility, Leon got caught, and they pretty much pretending part of like the uh the place they break into, they pretended to be one of the workers there. Because up to a point, replicants can easily blend in like the populace, but Blade Runners have this system where you pretty much like interrogate replicants, check for signs, called the Voight Kampf test. And this guy comes in to be interrogated Blade Runner. And after a couple of questions, uh, Leon shoots the Blade Runner. I'm like, I searched this guy before he came in. Like, it seems kind of wild to me. But this really set off a lot of triggers. So now, meet up with Deckard. Now, first and foremost, like love the cyberpunk genre, especially cyberpunk noir, like atmosphere of this world. I like to watch kind of things at night because it set the tone. Exactly why I like Batman comics at night. Tone really get me immersed. I'm just like, and uh, Decker gets you know called in by which by the way, I'm not gonna speak guy again. Almost played other Blade Runner detective. And the only thing you remember about this guy is that he can his origami little stick that he almost like some kind of stuff little behind us. Uh, he's like the mess around with but doesn't do much. Like yeah, of course, or maybe almost as work, but I know this guy is an impressive actor, and it's like you don't get this guy much to do in this film. And it's like, wow, you could have just cast a Joe Smo actor because to play this role if they're not going to do much. And it's like you're a talent. It always gets on my and as uh, a well-known, impressive actor, maybe not so well, but just known enough, no body of work in their level, like casting a role where they're not doing much or even saying much, casting any dude and gotten the same freaking. This is a waste of talent, wasting their time. Kind of irks me. But anyway, so he gets called in. He's a former Blade Runner. Not sure what he does for a living now, but he gets called in. Kind of cop drama. And I think I'm out. They pull me back in. So, and he make a joke about a lot of drinking and smoking involved in this in these Blade Runner films, and that's so smoking. But yeah, both films have a lot of like alcohol. Uh, so Decker has to go track down Roy and his. So investigates Lee apartment where he finds this pink skin, which after going to really like it's the future LA, but it's kind of like I don't know, sure it's Chinatown part of LA, really like a street market, and it's like they, sell like all seafood, everything like that. But also they can also like scan and like uh microscopes and everything like that uh to run some kind of test on. Yeah, it's like you do all that in this one place. Like you're like former cop, you couldn't use uh a CSI facility in station. That's kind of weird. You gotta go to a fish market. Maybe you know a person, but do they got the same equipment? Have any scientists trust to observe and tell you the results that you need? But that's the information where he goes to this strip club lounge. And this really, shows off because for a long time we all gotten used to Harrison Ford and rough action hero, just like with Bruce Willis. But every now and again, you tend to forget that they got some comedic chops here, and they have a bit of range if you allow them that kind of funny. And you hear like Harrison Ford does this kind of goofy, dirty, warpy type of uh accent, very like Clark Kent ish kind of thing. We stuff with Zora, who has works, this snake in her live performance, and he does like, uh, oh, well, ma'am, we're checking for holes, and you'll be surprised how papers you I find, and then, yeah, like I'm just here for your assistance, man. And it's like kind of like it kind of hits you like the level of skill. It kind of reminds me how like I was just astounded by James McAvoy's performance as the Beast in uh Split and Glass, where he just like going with all these accents, and not just accents, like different body motion, cadence, switchings, and you know just different way he carries himself and personality, and stunning to see because like it's like you know money well spent to whoever like college he went to learn acting, money well spent. So that's what I'm seeing here with Harrison Ford's performance. Good, kind of blows me away because so used to him being an action star, do stuff. Matter of fact, another Harrison Ford movie, kind of comedic. So Father's Day, I can definitely do. Uh, Man, I remember it being anyway. Uh, so she wasn't buying it. She tried to knock him out, so she run out. Gives chase. Uh, then he eventually catches up, despite like the clutter of people on the street. Manages to catch up to a robot, replicant. You know what I mean? Like his whole slogan, replicant company had a slogan about like more human. So they got super strength. They should be able to run quite a bit fast. So crazy how maybe because it's crowded, but it's amazing how quick. But knowing he won't be able to interrogate her properly, not wanting her to get away, he put her down and falls through several plates of glass. And like glass is on this freaking street, in slow motion, going through pane glass, pane glass, pane glass, pane glass. There's so much glass. Why is so much glass? It's like the place. God, uh, but I kind of got to help myself. He also got instructed to jump ahead to the more crucial part. First, by his boss or former boss, go to the Tyrell Corporation about this whole situation. The other is an replicant. Come from like an earlier brand of model where they only got like 4 years lifespan, just to avoid in case something goes wrong. There's a fail safe because they gonna do the job they need to do, and eventually they die out, and then but then Decker is Rachel, and the more advanced one where they started implementing putting false memories replicate, kind of like cushioned, to make them really like believe they're actually human when they're not, just to make it like kind of easier. And it's like you can tell because like every once in a while, just a certain technique that Ridley Scott used to tell you this of like there's a particular technique they use in order to show like a particular lens flare, in particular in the eye. Oh, who's a replicant? Back in the day, there was always been like a whole debate. Oh, who's a replicant? Who's not a replicant? Replicant? He's not. I think that's been debunked over the years. Not a replicant, especially after the sequel that we know for sure that he's definitely not a replicant. But that was like an ongoing theory for the longest time. But it was only not until like getting close to the upcoming sequel where eventually around that time we started debunking whole replicant is Deckard a replicant. Um so with some uh prodding from Tyrell himself, like, why don't you uh test out your void comp test on her to see it shows your test out brand new model, brand new batches can uh pass the test. They are replicant because she doesn't know. So he asked her all these series of questions and went on longer than normal because she keeps passing questions till like down to the point where it's like now we know is, let's say it was like normal test lasts an hour. Might just went up to an hour and a half before he finally figured replicant. But like wow, Jan just to feel like robots can not be as detected as previous model. Um, After the whole situation, Dora, Decker ends up home and eventually. Well, no, not after that. And Rachel has this kind of uh dialogue in his apartment. She just shows up at his apartment, and she firmly believes he's not a replicant. Provide photos and all this other stuff. Decker, but replicant. Talking about all these implants. Part is memories, but then he starts seeing her fine and try to backpedal it. Sorry for her, but then she uh anyway uh Deckard. I mean, after this was going, boy finds out about fashion, helps Tyrell building the replicant. And Sebastian is a bit of like you know, I don't know, so kind of like a childlike nature, very net, you know, closed kind of person. He has this kind of whack apartment that he bumps into Pris, who pretends like eventually Roy shows uh get him to gain access to Tyrell building because he wouldn't be able to means so he has better than co-founder, co-creator. Uh Eventually I because Roy's so knowing that he has 4 years, they never specify kind of specify the year that he was, but it's like the math. He would have gotten at least 1 year left. This expired, but they kind of play fast and loose. Like he only got like days, kind of situation. It's like I don't know if you do have somebody. Oh, this time crunch. Play a little fast and loose in terms of anyway. So ultimate goal is why he's doing all this and landing on Earth, knowing it was hidden. He wants more life. Chris and Leon, they see themselves as like we're still people. got wants and desires. We, want to live, kind of thing. We're like a whole nother kind of species now that thinks, feels, and because I remember watching this that I didn't really, because I think I got locked onto the atmosphere of everything, knowing that, oh, it's Harrison Ford, Indiana Jones, so lock me in. But I didn't really, kind of like the Star Wars prequels with the whole politics. We couldn't really, as a kid, I couldn't really follow it like that. Now that I'm a little older, it's like, oh, like this makes even prices better. But I rewatched it in my 20s, uh, and especially when like the about to come up years ago. I was old enough to more understand everything, with like the dialogue and the story behind. So yeah, a whole new life. I Some of the Rosie the robot from the Jetsons, practically. I can communicate. I can understand, or even better yet, not just Rosie the robot. Like you got somebody like Data from Star Trek. The perfect example because I remember back in the day, one of the most famous episodes of Star Trek ever, where uh, Data was literally put on trial with his life on the line. Essentially, would have been decommissioned, where uh, Picard has to defend him because who are we to say he's not a living, thinking, feeling being because he's you know was created in a different way than uh, organic beings normally are. Is one of the most iconic. You can look up just that particular scene on YouTube. One of the most iconic. And I'm not a huge Star Trek fan. That was one of the best episodes that I've seen. I think like I grew up on Next Generation. You know, bias for it, but it is one of the most iconic scenes in all of Star Trek history. And pretty much, and Blade Runner once again. Blade Runner, Star Trek was long before Blade Runner, but kind of like Blade Runner really, you know, if not create like a whole new genre of sci-fi, but percolated or boosted more sci-fi stuff that was already permeating the zeitgeist. Um, but Tyrell says like, well, there's nothing I can do, or right, it might be feasible for him to add more life to replicants moving forward with time and you know or research and that. But with somebody like Roy, it's already said and done. Nothing I can do about it. Roy walks over, feeling like just piss. Uh, calls him like father, and then he squishes his head like a melon. Then Sebastian runs away, and here's another problem because it's mentioned, in passing dialogue that Sebastian was killed too. Don't get to see. I watched the final cut, so it was like a very long film. So you don't get to, like what happened to Sebastian appears all together when you're watching this. You gotta find like secondhand that he was killed off, assuming by Roy. But eventually, uh, throughout, uh, Deckers figures out about Sebastian, goes to patient and gets attacked by Chris, and he ends up being Chris, and she does this like weird thing, which has always stuck with me. I don't know, maybe I doubt like robots act like this. You will probably see this alien squid monster kind of thing, but uh, or like those giant like cockroach things from the Resident Evil game, like Resident Evil 5. See, those things do this kind of weird twitch thing to kill it. She just does this like, yeah, does this weird noise like, you have to shoot her a couple of times to get what that. I was like, that happened. Uh, then story show, and then it turns from a sci-fi cyberpunk noir film to a horror movie now, where he's taunting and uh chasing down Deckard, and Deckard's trying to uh run away from this straight up fight because Leon tried to, beat him up once, thanks to Rachel. Oh, by the way, uh, Leon ambushed. It was after saw he witnessed Deckard kill Sora, ambushed Deckard, and tried to beat him up because they are robots. So in a regular fist fight, Deckard would ultimately lose. Ends up dropping his gun, and Rachel shows up because she was in the neighborhood and picks up Deckard's gun, shoots Leon dead. Yeah, they end up going back to his apartment, get patched up, and given the fact that she haven't been showing up at Tyrell Corporation after it all together, you not with Deckard, she back Tyrell, but hasn't. So now zoomed up with Rachel's they run. Deckard makes a point to her. It's like, save my life, so you don't promise anything. Other Blade. But they had this little moment together. Now, looking back on it, some people might feel triggered about how this out. But mind you, and let's be honest, normal circumstances, a lot of women will be a little bit turned on about it, even like type of guy. Where once gotten, and tend to forget like this is like more human kind of a replicant, but how to describe. Don't want to use the word, but it, like certain girls like, oh no, you gotta read. If you're an expert with like women, you learn to read a certain body language. Because there were times back in the day, or recent years, women have to doing that now. You never know, because guys are not mind readers. But uh uh says no, but like body kind of says, I learn how it is tricky. Uh, but that's kind of stuff like, but uh, you know, push her against the wall, and doesn't she's a little naive in terms of action, so allowed him to lead and dominate the dominance. She winning, and hey, they got it on because she was attracted to him because way Harrison Ford that we're talking about. Like, then after they did the deed, goes to uh eventually he leaves. So after Roy chases him down. Decker ends up dropping his weapon. Chase leads outside of the apartment onto the roof. He's trying to jump to the adjacent roof during this heavy rain. It's raining a lot. It's a kind of light. But he barely makes it to the other end, holding on to like the head of a about to slip. Then Roy, saves him, which leads him to the most, really said it's still kind of strange that, kind of would have gotten like real left. Kind of wish they kind of explained more he exerts himself, more the time up or something. But clearly about to keel over, and Howard gives one of the most iconic monologues in history about you can look it up easily, called "Will Lost in Time Like Isn't a," and then passed away. Uh, as the other cops show up, pick up every bodies, uh, Gaff, so Deckard about like not dead or all of us. So Deckard runs home, tells Richard movie ends lives because they were coming after them. And that's pretty much Blade Runner film. I got there's a few things here and there like left out because I try to get like gather like the most pages worth. Already left out a good chunk, but yeah. Writer Philip K. Dick's writing have replicant said the novel used androids and Andes. Latter two might have sounded too comical. Shining Eyes, the irises replicant, was by Ridley Scott and photography director Gordon Gordon with a technique by Fritz Gordon really said like Ford didn't want voiceover record actual detective work. Plus, he liked directors giving him character, but sets and pictures. So this has always been his for it really longest time. It wasn't until like couple years before then. So when like Hollywood was ready to like the beef between God and also look at the theatrical cut. There is or not like it and might not like the voiceover was carried out in the theatrical cut because Ford never agreed with doing that. Kind of half-assed it due to very topical due to an imminent strike amongst the actors near the end of photography. Shooting schedule longer and rushed to finish filming. After 25 hours of shooting, Howard went to his hotel to sleep, and by the time he came back, the strike was averted. Around the time that like other actor strike kind of thing was about to pop off, didn't really pop off, was about to happening time. Blade Runner was one of the first movies with a director's cut with all the directors like very much like the Snyder cut. And of course there was like the genre cut too. Like, part of the three biggest cuts of movies and arguably probably like the best ones that people liked. I'm pretty sure like Godfather Perfectionist, which put him at odds with cameraman and production. Probably like as long as it is, and bulk of the issues behind the scenes carried on because he had everything just so right and what was button heads. Howard's first day filming was the scene where he murders Tyrell. He had a fake head that cost $20,000 for Howard to crush. It was difficult. Turkel had two put behind his glasses for the blood to pour out. A gymnast stunt double for Hannah cursed the fight scene Deckard so many times he was too tired to actually do it. So really, a male gymnast. This speaks to his professionalism. Kept going on. I don't know, got tired, so he just 90 visual effects. Most were miniatures. Ford says this most frustrating film worked on. Really regards Blade Runner as personal, and Deckard never says a word to Roy when they finally meet. That one was very interesting because yeah, he did not say a peep to this guy. Never really see this from main. Because matter of fact, now think about it. Like, how many movies have you ever seen where like the main hero, main villain, don't meet up until like the tail end of the film, and then they never say not two words to each other? That is unprecedented in film. I never even like I don't even recall any movie that ever. That was very interesting. It was like a very like big play, a smart play. It just seems like it just works. Don't need to say I mean Roy does all the talking, but Deckard doesn't even have to say a peep to this guy. Howard improvised his kind of monologue for the kind of monologue. Film using forced perspective. Venture was really, and Michael briefly fired from production after photography wrapped because the movie had gone over budget. Shortly before he died, Philip Dick saw the first 20 minutes of the press and stated, "Caught it one of the rare moments of film get to see work brought to of a author that's have his work film and really enjoy it. Volumes rarely get that kind of the fact that he says that he caught it perfectly. There's an infamous curse built up around Blade Runner. Companies had product placement have experienced disastrous setbacks. Electronics conglomerate RC bought out Atari, the game company. Downturn by 1990 is this beyond the name. Cuisinart went bankrupt, went under new management. Bell broken up. Pan Am suffered first like bankrupt. Coca-Cola failed with their introduction of the CEO of High Five had embezzled $34 million. So wow, that one really sparked this piqued my interest. Like, wow, places like I don't know what the heck was going on. Ford stated he want a replicant because it'll take away humanity from. Finally, one of the scientists who picks Howard to create Sebastian was also a character in the Batman animated series who created the Omax, the iconic one of them being like the Silicon Soul episode where like that fake Batman, uh, real Batman had to fight. That character based off of Sebastian from Blade Runner, so all 1-to-1 to the film. And it kind of took inspiration for those episodes Batman starred in. That was wow. I could got that. So those are like the interesting tidbits that I really had to talk about because I didn't. I thought like, oh, I can remember all these. I better write this stuff down because so much interesting stuff that I did bring up guys about because Blade Runner is one of the most iconic films ever. So stuff that like I had issues with was more so it picks in a lot of ways, but kind of glaring stuff like the death of Sebastian kind of thing need to put it in. But then again, there's so many cuts. Everything went on longer, way past certain budgets that is already like said. But hell, butting heads with Ridley Scott and a couple of people behind the scenes. It was already maddening as it is, so I can't really fault it. Stuff that we got, it's like, oh, okay, it's already good. It's already good, so I'm just happy. One of the most iconic films of history is in the Smithsonian, as we speak, is one of the most, important films that's ever been brought to light in human history. So right up there with like something like Wizard of Oz, Star Wars, Empire Strikes Back. That high, Godfather, that high, most infamous films in history. But anyway, that was Blade Runner, the final cut. I'll see you guys in a few. I go over Blade Runner 2049. Those has some interest at too. Not as much as the first one, but fun nonetheless. I'll see you guys in a bit. Leave a comment below. Let me know what you think of the films together. What's your favorite scene? Or if you haven't seen it, do us a favor. Check this out. This is a really good film. Final cut. Check out the final cut. But anyway, like and subscribe. Share this with your own.